Hey everyone, thought I'd put together a little video for you just to help you see and give you a bit more information on what's different between coming for a pod session and coming for a Soul Star healing session, because there's similarities, but there's also quite big differences. Essentially, I'm going to just layer up a few concepts so we can see the difference here. We can think of like vibration as a continuum, as a line, and we can look at, from the left hand, you can see slower vibrations, more dense in nature, and we can go to the right hand side and have more higher vibrations, less dense by nature. And we could put in the middle of this the speed of light, 300,000 meters per second. And within, there's many different ways we can describe the left hand side and the right hand side. So most of us exist in our consciousness and awareness purely from the physical realm, from a more dense physical level of consciousness and perception. We rarely have contact with the quantum realm, the higher realms, the more infinite sources of consciousness and information. And in a more of a sciencey way of describing it, science describes it as this physical world as being vector and the quantum realm as being more as what they call scalar. If more spiritual terms, it's manifest, it's what has been created, and what hasn't been created yet, that infinite pool of existence, is non-manifest. And in yogic terms, this is called Shakti, everything in physical existence. But when we say physical existence, we are meaning anything in existence. So emotions and thoughts are less dense aspects of the physical, but they're still in existence. So they still considered that Shakti world, that Shakti end of a spectrum. And now we have the Shiva, the infinite pool of everything, God, consciousness, source, however we want to describe it, right? If we were to flip this this line 90 degrees, this helps us understand a little bit more about what's going on from a chakra level. And I'll talk more about what the chakras are and what they do in a second. But as you can see, there's a dotted line in the middle. And if you can see here, I've put that little light bulb, that speed of light, right in the center of there. So there are three chakras below. They're more on the denser levels, the physical level of that spectrum. And essentially, those three levels of consciousness, of existence, of perception, of beingness are subject to being out of balance. When we are not in alignment and we are not receiving information, and you'll see this in a second how that works, when we are not receiving information that guides us to be in balance, we are therefore out of balance. We could also say at ease or at dis-ease. So anything that is causing us challenge and pain and discomfort in our existence, in our lives, is something that is at dis-ease. And ultimately, it is normally our motivation to bring whatever it is that's out of dis-ease into ease, because it's painful and it's harmful or it's toxic, and we travel through this life trying to figure this out, but it's pretty tough to figure this out when we're not receiving the information of how and why and what to do. That information comes from two major sources. That information that comes in to guide us, to inform us as how we're out of balance and how we get into balance, comes from two major sources. It comes from the earth, from below, and it comes from above, from the stars, from heaven. That sounds a little bit wacky and out there. I appreciate when you first hear that. But when I've studied many of the ancient cultures, they all have their names for this. There is heaven energy and there is earth energy. The earth energy is coming from when we are connected, and you've probably heard of the concept of grounding, the fact that if we actually are physically connected to the earth, we come into balance, at ease. What's happening there? We are receiving certain energy and information from that earth, which is guiding us to come into balance there. And when we open up to the top, to the heavens, to the cosmos, to God, to consciousness, we are also able to receive energy down. And essentially, we are therefore being guided by two major balancing forces that inform us, they guide us, they give us a way to go, They help us to understand what we were doing and how we were out of balance, and it will guide us towards what we need to do to be in balance. And that's why you may have seen me for the past couple of years working more on life purpose, because when I open this up for folks, they start receiving this information and they know where they need to go. They know what they need to do. They know what they need to get rid of, and they know what they need to do more. In more the tantric yogic teachings, they're more authentic tantric teachings that I've studied a lot of. These are called cosmic and telluric energies. And we take energy up in different ways in our body. We often think the only way we get energy is through our food, but essentially we also get energy from the earth. This is called many things. This is life force energy, called prana as well, called chi. The ki in Aikido, the Japanese martial art, is this life force energy. Nearly every other ancient culture has an understanding that there is life force energy to be receiving. That is really important to nourish us, to keep us healthy, to keep us balanced. And most of us are walking around on this earth disconnected from the earth energy. We're not grounded. We don't spend our time being grounded. And we're also completely disconnected from the cosmic energy. So we really lack this sense of purpose and direction and pure awareness as to what it is that's causing our pain in our lives and what it is we can do personally to bring us into more ease, into more alignment. And when we start to receive that information, life changes dramatically for us. So when you come into a pod session, and you can see here on the left, there are these 3 Perspex towers. This is what's called a version 4 pod. Marie, who you guys may know or may have heard of or whatever, this is the first way that I experienced the pod energy. Then this is one of the ways to experience it. As a therapist myself, I have what's called the version 2s, more appropriate for therapists. I have 4 little mini pods here in a little square in my healing space, which does the same thing. Essentially what it's doing is creating an energy field that is vibrating at much higher frequencies, that is more in that quantum realm, which is more in that cosmic realm, that's going to deliver the information that's required. And it's going to go to work on synchronizing whatever's at dis-ease in your system, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual levels, and will slowly, with that information coming in, will inform what's required for whatever's out of balance to come into balance, to come into ease. So it really, truly is holistic healing on much deeper levels than just the physical, And the results already, and I've only had these things since November, are blowing my mind. So purely from an energetic balancing point of view on all these multiple levels, you lay in this space, you have really phenomenal experiences in all these different ways, and we can be assured that whatever's out of balance on the different levels are being guided and brought into balance. What do I see on an actual practical level after these sessions? I am seeing folks become much more assertive. They're much more aware of what they're doing and how they've been behaving, or what they have been dodging or hiding from. And they are stepping forwards, being much more assertive, and they know what they need to do. For instance, client of mine, big bulging discs in her spine for the past 3 years, even had an operation, couldn't shift it, didn't realize until she'd been in the pods that she had to give up caffeine and drink water. That would be so obvious to anyone, right? But for her own personal healing, it just became a thing that just needed to be done. And without having to focus and graft or use a lot of willpower to do that, it was just, this is what needs to be done, and we go in that direction. This is why this work is so powerful, because we start taking action very quickly, almost immediately, upon what we need to do in this life in order to bring us into ease within all the different levels. And of course, I wasn't even soul star healing therapies. I was hiding, still trying to be more acceptable on just the physical end of the spectrum. but it's not me. I'm the whole spectrum. And so I am taking action now. And I have to put it down to the fact that I have spent time in my own pods, and it has just made it so obvious that I need to do this. And it's like I now have all the energetic support. And now I'm ready to just make that jump and just do it without any fear. That's the big key. It's like the fear goes and you just go forwards. Okay, that's a pod session. Pretty freaking cool, just being in the space of the pods. Now, for many years, I have worked as a fascial therapist. And also, as many of you would know, I've worked with Pilates for many years. I was very fortunate to train in the original style of Joseph Pilates' work, which could see the structure and organization in the body. And then with my hands-on fascial work, I was able to feel how the body is connected. What has this got to do with healing? What's this got to do with kind of the levels of consciousness and making these shifts in our life? Well, interestingly, if you think of the body like the London Underground, is that there are exit and entrance points, and there are many different tracks. If we start switching the points on the tracks and sending the energy or the train or the passengers down to a dead end, or we start shutting down stations and we start shutting down exits and entrance ways, that energy and information, the people traveling cannot go from A to B and get out of the system or even get in. They get stuck within the system. It gets convoluted. And what happens in the body when energy, and that's on emotional, on mental levels, all these different levels, cannot get out or in, and you cannot receive the information to guide you on what you need to do, we get our physical symptoms, and we get all the other symptoms, our mental health, our emotional health, etc. And what I've been able to understand and see and refine over the years is that through a very structured sequence of very subtle body work, including the energetic work that I'll get to on in a minute, I am able to reroute all of the energetic and physical structures in your body. So it's like putting all the train track points back. It's opening all the stations. It's opening all the exits and entrance ways. So essentially, your system is back fully open, fully able to receive the cosmic energy or heaven energy or source or consciousness, and it's fully able to receive all of that pranic energy, which will also guide you, energize you, nourish you. And this is how I've been able to get such profound, amazing results on physical levels, but also throughout my career, seeing that folks also start to drop what isn't serving them, realizing that it is the thing causing their pain, and go in the direction that does serve them. I once had 4 people consecutively every day in a week come in who quit their jobs because they realized that the stress and the toxicity in the job was directly connected to their physical pain. And why would they put themselves through that any longer when they are the ones now in control? They are the ones that have seen the light, they've seen the reason for it, and therefore you can make a change on that. You can take decisive, swift action and move beyond and move ahead in life. Very powerful. And so essentially we're doing quite similar things, me and the pods. I'm like a walking, living, organic pod, because I've had a certain thing, 2-session process called The Reconnection, which if you saw my presentation last week, you would have seen it was very life-changing for me. And I can facilitate the reconnection for others, in that I was once closed off heaven and earth and walking around, not knowing who I am and what I was doing. And then I had the reconnection, and it's boom, like opened everything up for me. And it put me on this path very rapidly. That's been 10 years in development of me opening up and learning more and downloading and following my path, following that guidance now and purpose. And so when you're experiencing a Soul Star healing session with me, it's not just the physical coming into balance. Your energy system will also synchronize with my energy system. Your energy system that's often very closed up will start to connect to me as a quantum connected being, and you will start to receive all of that information as well as to who you are, what you're here to do, what doesn't serve you, what does serve you, and move forwards in your life. So where me and the pods are very similar. There's just they're very different experiences. When you're laying in the pods, there's no physicality. You're laying there, you're fully receiving, you're fully in that energy field, and it's a different way to experience the rebalancing and the healing. When you come to me for the Soul Star healing session, you are experiencing more of the physical as well as the energetics. So for me, if there are more physical things going on for you, physical pain, physical issues, then a Soul Star healing session is fantastic at that, starting at that more dense physical level. And again, you'll be receiving the healings on the higher level, the rebalancing, the harmonizing on the higher levels. It's best for that end of the spectrum. If there isn't anything particularly that you're aware of physically as an issue, but we all have stuff going on in our lives that are out of balance, that is causing us pain in other ways on different levels, then maybe a pod session is the right thing for you. And essentially, I would trust your gut feeling, and I would go towards which one calls you, and you will know, really. So right now, you can book into both on my website. I'm still developing the website, but the booking the booking aspect is all there, up and running. You can book in. I'm offering at the moment a 30-minute complimentary, so free 30-minute pod session for you to just come and try and experience it, because this is such amazing stuff. I want to get it out there. I want to start helping folks. And of course, you can book in for a Soul Star healing session. And as you'll see, you can get discount for booking a multiple of 3 of both of those. And it really is just a phenomenal two ways that I can really just help shift the consciousness, expand everyone's lives so they can live a life that's way more at ease, it's way more expansive, and then live your purpose and be out into this world, having that impact. So hope you find that useful, and I look forward to catching you up in another video soon. You take care.